find probable cause as to those offenses. I did appoint an attorney to represent you. You have a status conference hearing on March 14th at 8:30, and a preliminary hearing. You return to the scene of the alleged crime. You cannot initiate any contact with the alleged victim. You cannot initiate any contact with the with co-defendants. If you fail to comply with your release conditions or you fail to appear for your court dates, any bond posted would be forfeited, a warrant would be issued for your arrest, and additional bond would be imposed. So that takes care of everything that I have to advise you of. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, how much does that mean I have supposed to get out?
Secured appearance, it's 10% of $20,000, so it's $2,000 plus collateral.
All
So
right.
whatever a bonding company,
All right.
whatever their policies are.
Okay.
Okay, if you'll step to your left, the officer will give you your paperwork. Mr. Diaz-Horn, will you please come into the courtroom? And Ms. Barfield, will you please have a seat in the chair? So, sir, can you please state your first and last name and your date of birth?
Eugene Diaz-Horn, 12/16/94.
You were here on a new case. You were charged with one count of possession of dangerous drugs for sale, a Class 2 felony, and one count of transporting or selling dangerous drugs, a Class 2 felony. I did find probable causes to both counts. I did appoint an attorney to represent you. You do have a status conference hearing on March 14th at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing on March 18th at 8:30. You do have a secured appearance bond in the amount of $25,000. If you are able to post bond, you cannot possess any weapons. You must appear for your court dates. If you fail to do so, any bond posted would be forfeited. A warrant would be issued for your arrest, and additional bond would be imposed.
All right, so how much would I have to put down, about 2,000?
2,000, I don't know, $2,050, I believe, somewhere around there. 2,500, sorry.
But would I have to do the collateral too?
Yes.
With that as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, that's about it.
Okay, if you'll step to your left, the officer will give you your paperwork. Ms. Barfield, will you please come into the courtroom? And Mr. Campbell, if you will please have a seat in the chair. Ma'am, can you please state your first and last name and your date of birth?
Jara Barfield, August 6, 1982.
You were here today on a new case. You were charged with one count of theft of means of transportation, a Class 3 felony, one count of burglary in the third degree, a Class 4 felony, and one count of possession of dangerous drugs, a Class 4 felony. I did find probable cause on all of those charges. I did appoint an attorney to represent you. You do have a status conference hearing on March 14th at 8:30, a preliminary hearing on March 18th at 8:30. You have a secured appearance bond in the amount of $20,000. If you are able to post bond, you cannot return to the scene of the alleged crime, you cannot initiate any contact with the alleged victims, and you cannot have any contact with your co-defendants. If you fail to comply with your release conditions or appear for your court dates, any bond posted will be forfeited, a warrant will be issued for your arrest, and additional bond would be imposed. That takes care of everything that I need to advise you of. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so if you'll step to your left, the officer will give you your paperwork. Mr. Campbell, will you please come into the courtroom? And Mr. Smith, will you please have a seat in the chair? I just need one moment, Mr. Campbell. Ruby, when I'm looking at the screen, it looks like there's supposed to be, there's only one or two. Sorry, can you repeat that? I'm going to come around to your side. That is for the same time for the back use that both have for right now. Told you earlier. That is for the case. Okay. It's weird. Okay, sir, can you please state your first and last name and your date of birth?
3/11/1977, name Herman Campbell.
Thank you. You are here because you have a warrant for failing to appear for a court date. An attorney was already appointed to represent you in this matter. You do have a status conference hearing on March 14th at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing for March 18th at 8:30. You do have a secured appearance bond in the amount of $500. I know that you had some matters earlier today, and I'm not exactly sure what the orders were, so I would just want to take a peek at that so I can kind of tell you about everything. Okay, so in the matter that you were seen on this morning, you were being held not bondable, so I would advise against attempting to post bond on this matter because you wouldn't be released because you're being held non-bondable on your other matter. So wait until you find out whether or not you're going to be bondable on the other matter before you try to post bond. If it turns out that you are going to be bondable, please be advised that if you fail to appear for your hearings, any bond posted would be forfeited, another warrant would be issued for your arrest, and additional bond could be imposed. That takes care of everything that I needed to advise you of. Do you have any questions for me?
No, ma'am.
Okay, if you'll please step to your left, the officer will give you your paperwork. Mr. Smith, will you please come into the courtroom? And Mr. York, will you please have a seat in the chair? Hello, sir. Can you please state your first and last name and your date of birth?
Jason Smith, January 4, 1981.
Thank you. You are here today because a warrant was issued when you failed to appear for a court date. An attorney was already appointed to represent you in this matter. You do have a status conference hearing on March 14th at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing on March 18th at 8:30. You do have a secured appearance bond in the amount of $500. If you are able to post bond, it is important that you attend your court dates. If you fail to appear, the bond that you posted would be forfeited, another warrant would be issued for your arrest, and additional bond could be imposed. So that takes care of everything that I needed to advise you of. Did you have any questions for me?
No.
Okay, if you will step to your left, the officer will give you your paperwork. Mr. York, will you please come into the courtroom? And Mr. Harry, will you please have a seat in the chair? Can you state your first and last name and your date of birth?
Savon York, 05/28/1995.
You were here today on a new case. You were charged with 1 count of criminal damage, a class 1 misdemeanor, and 1 count of disorderly conduct involving fighting. I did find probable cause as to both counts. I did appoint an attorney to represent you. You will have an arraignment hearing on March 26th at 1 p.m. I am inclined to release you on your own recognizance. You do have to promise to appear for your court date. Do you promise to appear?
Yes.
You do have some release conditions that you will also need to comply with. You cannot return to the scene of the alleged crime. You cannot initiate any contact with the alleged victim, and you cannot possess any weapons. If there's an order of protection or an order against harassment, you do have to abide by the terms of those orders. You cannot reside at the same location of the victim, even if you are the owner or renter of the residence. You are permitted 1 civil standby with local law enforcement to help you retrieve your essential belongings. If you violate the no victim contact order in this case, you could be charged with aggravated harassment, which is a class 6 felony. Failure to comply with these conditions or to appear for your court date will result in a warrant being issued for your arrest and a bond being imposed. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you have any questions?
I do. I wanted to ask about a situation, I guess. I wanted to know if maybe the court can grant some mercy. The situation is with my fiance. She's 3 months pregnant,
Okay.
and she has 3 children.
Do not talk to me about the facts of your case because
sorry.
I've appointed an attorney to represent you to deal with that. The mercy that I'm giving you, because typically in these types of situations, I'm weighing whether or not I'm even going to impose a bond. And the reason why I did not impose a bond is because I looked at the lack of history, but I did know from the probable cause statement that your partner was pregnant and that there were other children in the home.
Yeah, and
So-
but it was just a it was a broken desk and it was
Okay.
broken on accident. It wasn't,
Do not talk about your case. I'm just telling you the things that I reviewed, I made a probable cause finding of. You haven't been found guilty or not guilty. This is just the beginning. But right now, based on the information that I have to make sure that the victim is safe, that you are not at risk to the community. And how do I do that? So right now, I think separation is the best thing. You will get to meet and talk to your attorney, and the judge that you go in front of can maybe decide something different. But as of right now, this is what I'm ordering.
okay.
Okay?
Do you know how long this will
Your
take
next
place?
court date is March 26th.
So it's just until then, until I get a new,
And then when you get to your court date, that judge can decide. There'll probably be more information by the time you get to your next court date, but this is what the order is for today. Okay? So if you'll step to your left, the officer will give you your paperwork. Mr. Harry, will you please come into the courtroom? And Mr. Gonzalez, if you will please have a seat in the chair. So, sir, can you please state your first and last name and your date of birth?
Travis Harry, 8197.
Thank you. You are here today for a new case. You were charged with one count of aggravated DUI, driving with a suspended license for a previous DUI, a class 4 felony, one count of obstruction of a highway or public thoroughfare, a class 2 misdemeanor, and one count of possession of open container in a vehicle, a class 2 misdemeanor. I did find probable cause as to all of those offenses. I did appoint an attorney to represent you. You will have a status conference hearing on March 24th at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing on March 27th at 8:30. I'm inclined to release you to pretrial services today. You do have to promise to appear for your court date.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you promise to
Yes,
appear?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You also have some release conditions with being released to pretrial services. And one of those release conditions are that you will have to participate in alcohol testing and monitoring.
Okay.
If you fail to comply with your release conditions or you fail to appear for your court dates, a warrant will be issued for your arrest and a bond will likely be imposed. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you'll step to your left, officer.
I had a
will-
question.
Yes.
With the testing, how does that go?
So you're getting all your information.
Oh, right here. Oh,
Mhm.
okay. And then it has the date and everything.
The pretrial services will be in contact with you.
Okay, all right.
Mr. Gonzalez, if you will please come into the courtroom, and Mr. Phillip, if you will please have a seat in the chair. Hello, Mr. Gonzalez, can you please state your first and last name and your date of
Pedro
birth?
Gonzalez, 7990.
Thank you. You are here today because a direct complaint was filed charging you with one count of theft of a credit card or obtaining a credit card by fraudulent means, a class 5 felony, and one count of theft, a class 1 misdemeanor. The date of these alleged offenses is February 21st of this year. I did appoint an attorney to represent you in this matter. You will have a status conference hearing on March 24th at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing on March 27th at 8:30. I'm inclined to release you on your own recognizance today. You do have to promise to appear for your court dates. Do you promise to appear?
Yes.
If you fail to appear for your court dates, a warrant will be issued for your arrest and a bond will likely be imposed. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you'll step to your left, the officer will give you your paperwork. Thank you.
John, one thing, my mother just passed. Her funeral is going to be in South Carolina in 3 days. Will I be allowed to know?
You cannot leave the state of Arizona. I've appointed an attorney to represent
Okay.
you. Just listen. So tomorrow's Monday. Your paperwork has the phone number for the office. Call that office to see what attorney is appointed to you, and you can talk to them. They will have to file some type of motion or whatever with the court to see if there's an exception. I cannot do that
No,
today.
yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Phillip, will you please come into the courtroom? And Ms. Smith, will you please have a seat in the chair? Sir, can you please, I called you by your first name instead of your last name, which is Wyatt. Is it Wyatt?
Wyant.
Okay, can you state your first and last name and your date of birth for me?
Philip Daniel Wyant.
And your date of birth?
10/15/1990.
Thank you. You are here on a new case. You were charged with one count of possession of a narcotic drug, a class 4 felony, one count of a dangerous drug, a class 4 felony, one count of possession of drug paraphernalia, a class 6 felony, and one count of false report to law enforcement, a class 1 misdemeanor. I did find probable causes to all of those charges. I did appoint an attorney to represent you. You will have a status conference hearing on March 24th at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing on March 27th at 8:30. I am inclined to release you on your own recognizance today. You do have to promise to appear for those 2 court dates. You promise to appear.
Yes, ma'am.
If you fail to appear for your court dates, a warrant will be issued for your arrest and a bond would likely be imposed. Do you understand?
Correct.
Okay, so if you will step to your left, the officer will give you your paperwork.
Okay, and the address and everything to,
Everything's going to be in your paperwork.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
You have a good day.
Ms. Smith, will you please come into the courtroom? Hello, can you please state your first and last name and your date of birth?
Jessica Smith, 9/28/91.
Thank you. You are here today because a direct complaint was filed. You were charged with 1 count of possession of a narcotic drug, a class 4 felony, and 1 count of possession of drug paraphernalia, a class 6 felony. The date of those alleged offenses is April 11th of 2024. I did appoint an attorney to represent you in this matter. You will have a status conference hearing on March 24th at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing on March 27th at 8:30. I am going to release you on your own recognizance today. You do have to promise to appear for those court dates. You promise to appear?
Yes.
If you
But-
don't,
I need to ask you something. I never got caught on April 11th.
so,
I have never been caught with narcotics since
okay,
back in,
time out. So, I don't have the police report. This was a direct complaint that was filed. So the judicial officer who signed off on the direct complaint reviewed the information for probable cause. So any denial or whatever to that is why I've appointed you an attorney, and that will be addressed at your next hearing.
okay.
For today, I'm just advising you that this direct complaint was filed, that I've appointed an attorney for you. I have told you your court dates. I did ask you, do you promise to appear for your court dates? And you did not answer that question.
Yes, I said yes.
Okay, so make sure that you appear for your court dates.
Mhm.
If you fail to appear for your court dates, a warrant will be issued for your arrest and a bond will be imposed. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, if you all step to your left, the officer will give you your paperwork. Darren Ford, date of birth November 9th, 1968, is here on a new case and as well as a violation of probation. He is unable to participate in person today due to bizarre behavior. On his new case, he was charged with 1 count of robbery, a class 4 felony, and 1 count of resisting arrest with physical force, a class 6 felony. I did find probable cause as to both counts. I did appoint an attorney to represent him. You will have a status conference hearing on March 14th at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing on March 18th at 8:30. You will have a secured appearance bond in the amount of $50,000. As to his violation of probation, I did appoint an attorney to represent him in that matter as well. He will have a probation revocation, possible disposition hearing on March 17th at 8:30. He has a secured appearance bond in the amount of $250. He will be advised that if he is able to post bond, he will need to contact probation within 72 hours of his release, that he cannot have any contact with his alleged victim, and he cannot return to the scene of the alleged crime. He will further be advised that if he fails to appear for his court dates, any bond posted will be forfeited. A warrant would be issued for his arrest, and additional bond could be imposed. This concludes the 8 p.m. initial appearance calendar, and if any changes are needed with Mr. Ford, I will either do so on the record or in writing. This concludes the 8 p.m. initial appearance calendar. We stand in recess until 11 p.m.
You want to step up here? Want to come down here to the boot house?
Mr. Ford, are you able to hear, Mr. Ford, are you able to hear me? Mr. Okay. Mr. Ford, you are here, on two matters. You have one new case and one violation of probation. On the new case, you were charged with one count of robbery, a class 4 felony, and one count of resisting arrest with physical force, a class 6 felony. I did find probable causes to those two counts. I did appoint an attorney to represent you. You will have a status conference hearing on March 14th at 8:30 and a preliminary hearing on March 18th at 8:30. You will have a secured appearance bond in the amount of $50,000. Then on your violation of probation, I appointed an attorney to represent you in that matter. You will have a probation revocation possible disposition hearing on March 17th at 8:30. You have a secured appearance bond in the amount of $250. If you are able to post bond, you do need to contact your probation officer within 72 hours. You do need to make sure that you appear for your court dates. If you fail to appear for your court dates, any bond posted will be forfeited. A warrant would be issued for your arrest and additional bond would be imposed. This takes care of everything that I needed to advise you of this evening. The officer will give you your paperwork, which will reflect what we've just discussed here this evening. Thank you.